You know, Andy, I couldn't really think of a better time than right now when folks are getting ready to kick off a new quarter, or for some folks, a new 90 days, or for others, it's just a new start, a fresh start. You know, take a moment and talk about just the importance of including storytelling as one of the elements that every entrepreneur should have in their business plan. Like, it should be ready for the next 90 days.
Absolutely. So I'll tell you this, man, Shay, it's crazy because, just the environment we're in, there's so many things that are changing. And for all of us, we're always trying to find really creative ways to be able to build a connection, to build rapport, to attract. And I think that's really the key word. I think that for many entrepreneurs, and even for those who are not entrepreneurs right now, but they're trying to become entrepreneurs, they're trying to become speakers, they're trying to become coaches. I think so many of them want to be able to attract even opportunities for themselves. And there's nothing more magnetic. There's nothing that's going to create faster connection. There's nothing that's going to create more opportunities for you than really having something that draws people in. And if you think about it, the thing that has been the ongoing magnetic force for major influencers is really just great storytelling. And it's crazy because if you go down through the list of major influencers, past or present, the thing that they all had in common was that they were really great communicators. And not only were they great communicators, but they were also phenomenal storytellers. And so I remember I sent out an email to my list, and the question was, what does Oprah Winfrey, Steve Jobs, Martin Luther King, Walt Disney, Tyler Perry, Tony Robbins, what do all those people have in common? And yes, they've all built tremendous platforms. They have all made their mark. They all were highly influential, whether past or even present. But the thing that they all have in common is that they're really great storytellers, right? They're great at just being able to share a story, to be able to build connection and rapport. And so I believe that now, especially in the marketplace, Shay, where so many of us are having to rely on a virtual format, okay? So that means that the majority of our communication, the majority of the time when we're talking about our products and our services, the majority of the time when we are even positioning ourselves in front of our customers and clients is happening from behind a webcam. It's happening from behind an actual camera. So we got to figure out then, what is it that we can do that is going to really position us to be able to get somebody to just momentarily stop in the midst of their busy schedule, in the midst of surfing through social media, whether they're on Facebook, whether they're on IG, whether they're on LinkedIn, or whatever it might be. What is it that we can do that's going to get them to just momentarily stop for a moment, just long enough so that they could listen to what we have to say? And I personally believe that the thing that so many of us can leverage that's going to give us competitive advantage is really getting great at being able to share and tell stories that are engaging, stories that get people's attention. And I believe that the person who wins today is the person who can get attention and then also be able to keep that attention. And I believe the best tool for doing that, Shay, is of course sharing and telling stories, man.
No, I love it.
And I mean, I cannot stress it enough. In a world where so many people are just competing to get the attention of prospects, so many people are competing for the same customers and same clients, you got to have a competitive advantage. And by far, I believe that one of the best and most natural modalities is storytelling for being able to attract people and enroll them into your vision and your products and your services.
You know, one of the things I've admired is your commitment not only to talk about the importance of storytelling, but to also make sure that folks understand how to do it. And I recall when we got together and I had a chance to be behind the scenes with you, and you were sharing with me how to break down not only my own story, but the different elements that are inside of it. And not only was it revolutionary for me, but there was a lifetime value. And I don't know if you know that 3-4 years later, I'm still applying those skills as I'm trying to tell and talk about different type of stories. I guess my question would be for those folks that are out there, like Mavis is out there right now. Sakisha Hollick says hello out there in Florida, by the way.
Hey.
Rico, who's out there, by the way. And so many folks that are tuning in right now that says, Shay, They keep telling me I need to do these stories. I've been hearing about doing stories. They've been beating me over my head about doing it. But for some reason, I've been challenged with actually doing it. What do you think, Andy, is one of the challenges that hold entrepreneurs back from trying to get the stories that they're using based on their intuition into some type of structure and a system that can help them going forward?
Yeah, so let's talk about a couple of things. So typically, with many of my clients that come through my Master Storyteller Academy, we've had the opportunity to just be able to train so many people. And there's just reoccurring sort of themes that pop up when it comes to folks who are having challenges with, number one, just seeing the value alone in their story. So one of the things that I realize is that oftentimes we're a bit too close to our story to really truly appreciate it. Shay, I can't even begin to tell you how many times I've heard somebody say, well, I don't know if I really have a story. And the reason why they don't believe that they have a story, Shay, is because of the fact that they are comparing their story to somebody else's story. And so, yes, we are aware of those really amazing sort of down and out stories. When somebody was dealing with a major addiction, they were strung out on drugs, on cocaine, whatever it might be, and then they redeemed their life. Or somebody was in a very tragic accident and they were like the sole survivor of a crazy accident. Or we hear stories about, somebody was born with with an autoimmune disease or was born with a degenerative disease. Or we hear a story about, somebody was missing a limb or whatever it might be. And those stories are what we call more bigger and heavier stories. And so what happens is for the everyday person who maybe looks at their life and they go, you know what, I've had a pretty decent life. I had a pretty good upbringing. I lived in decent neighborhoods. I've never been on drugs. I've always been in good health or whatever. They start comparing their story to those other like movie type stories. Mm-hmm. And then now they start convincing themselves, well, maybe perhaps I don't have a story. And that is so far from the truth. Because although if you have a heavy story, one of those bigger stories about, overcoming, abuse, emotional, physical abuse, about an autoimmune, whatever it might be, if you have one of those stories, by all means, tell that story. You're going to change and impact lives. And you're going to set so many people free, and you're going to be a tremendous blessing to them. But on the other end, if you have the everyday story, what you fail to realize is that there is still what we like to refer to as a universal theme within your story that a lot of people can relate to. And oftentimes the themes that we're trying to get people to relate to, they don't have to really be very complicated. I can tell you for myself personally, Shay, I remember the first time I went to a storytelling training. Storytelling training was being facilitated by, one of the top 5 speakers in the world, none other than Les Brown. And Shay, I remember being at that training, and there were 2 people that shared their story right before I was supposed to tell my story. Mm-hmm. One of the gentlemen, his name was Dwight Pledger. Me and Dwight are really good friends till this day. Yeah. And Dwight shared this amazing story about how he was a very successful real estate broker, beautiful home, 2-story home, 3-car garage, 2 Mercedes-Benz sitting out there, him and his wife kicking butt and taking names in real estate. And then he talks about how he goes to a party at the end of the year to sort of celebrate. And he's there at the party, minding his business. And then someone opens the door and says, hey, come in here. And they're like, hey, come in here because this is where the real party's at. Well, when he walks in that back room, he had no idea that his life would be forever changed, because when he walked into that back room, they were actually back there doing drugs. And he had never done drugs before, and they offered him basically a hit of a pipe. And he at first said, no. And through the peer pressure, Dwight shares a story about how he took the pipe, thinking he was just going to take one hit. And he said he took the pipe, put it to his mouth. And he said, man, when he blew that smoke out, Shay, his life forever changed, because he became an instant addict. He ended up abandoning his wife and his children, and he was going from crack house to crack house and abandoned his family for years. And then he talks about how eventually he wakes up in this abandoned house, no electricity, no running water. He could feel the shag carpet against his face. and he sort of has this come to Jesus moment, realizing like how low his life has become. And he comes to realization, I got to do something. And so he picks up the phone and he calls a family member. Mm-hmm. His family member calls his sister, Shay. And this is the next remarkable part about the story. They end up calling his wife. And he paints this picture about how his wife came and picked him up. His wife that he had abandoned for several years. His wife that he hadn't spoken to. His wife that he left with the children. And he said that once he gave the address, his wife pulled up and picked him up and received him into the car as if he had only been gone on a 2-day business trip when the man had left and abandoned her for several years. All right. Wow. So you have this remarkable story of both redemption, right? And this story of forgiveness, right? Now, right after Dwight, this is the crazy thing, Shay. Next person up is a lady by the name of Pauline Victoria Ahi. And so Pauline had already gotten my attention when I got to the training. And the reason why is because Pauline has no arms and she also has no legs. And I remember being fascinated by Pauline, like everyone else in the room, because it's not every day you're in the presence of somebody with no arms and no legs. And I was watching her, Shay. She was taking notes and she placed her pen right here on her shoulder. And she had the pen between her chin and her shoulder, and she was bent down and she was writing like that. And I remember my nosy self wanting to go over to the table because I wanted to see her handwriting. Yeah. And I couldn't believe how nice her handwriting is. So she comes to the front of the room and she shares the story, and we're all saying like, well, what happened? And we found out nothing happened. All her organs work, everything. She was just born with no arms and no legs. Other than that, she's perfectly fine. So they tried to convince her parents to put her into an institution, and her parents refused to. They brought her home, and they decided to love on her and treat her as if she was a regular child. So they forced her to have to learn how to fend for herself, how to go into the fridge, how to get her food, how to do all kind of things for herself. And here she is with no arms and no legs, and she lives a regular life. She's married. She has a child. She can type. She literally puts one of those back scratching, just, I don't know if you ever seen those wooden back scratchers that you scratch. She puts one of those on her shoulder between her chin, and she uses that to type, right? And so the remarkable part, just like that, man. That's like, right?
I can't even imagine.
And she can type faster than the average person. And so the remarkable thing, though, Shay, was that after she shared her story, she was being interviewed. And the question they asked, they said, Pauline, they said, what would you say is your biggest challenge that you've ever faced? And right after that, I'm telling you, we all got goosebumps because Shay Brown, Pauline Ahi, with no arms and no legs, she literally went like this. I can't think of something right now, but when I do, I'll let you know. So we're all in the room and we're thinking like, wait a second. The lady with no arms and no legs says she can't think of a major challenge right now. Yeah. So for all of us who had our little worries, the things we were concerned about, we were very humbled very quickly, and it put things into perspective. Now, here's the part, Shay, that you'll laugh about. Right after that, Les Brown goes, okay, next up, after our break, is going to be Andy Henriquez. Man, I ran into the bathroom, man, and I was hiding out. And I didn't want to come out because I'm reflecting on my life, and I'm thinking to myself, wait a second, I grew up in the suburbs. I was a straight A student. I graduated summa cum laude. I got my master's degree in corporate accounting. I went on to work for one of the big 4 public accounting firms. Yes, I left corporate America to become an entrepreneur. And, at that time, I was also investing in real estate and so forth. And I'm looking at my life and I'm thinking like, wow, like I don't have a story. Are you kidding me? Because I'm comparing my story to Dwight Pledger, strung out on drugs, awesome story, forgiveness, Pauline Ahi, no arms and no legs. And I'm thinking to myself, there's no way I have a story. And I remember hiding out in the bathroom, and one of my friends, Star Babatoon, came over by the bathroom. She was like, Andy, I know you're in there. I tried to change I was like, Andy's not in here. She's like, Andy, I know you changed your voice, man. Come out here. And I was like, I can't, Star. I can't go out there. She's like, why? I said, because I don't have a story. And then she said, listen, she said, stop comparing your story to other people and just own your story. And so I went out there, Shay, and I just really timidly just sort of shared how I grew up in a Caribbean household. You know, my parents told me go to school, get a good education, get a good job. And I talked about how I followed the script. I went to school at Florida State University. I graduated summa cum laude. I got my master's degree. I landed a job in one of the big four public accounting firms. But then something crazy happened, Shay. And it was the moment that I said, here I am. I landed a job with this amazing company. I've got every reason to do well. I'm working with this amazing company. I'm working with amazing people. And yet and still, I felt as if my life was following a basic routine. And so I was waking up every day to the sound of an alarm clock. I was jumping out of my bed. I was fighting traffic to get to a place in which I knew that something inside of me was saying, Andy, there's got to be more than this. And this was the magical moment, Shay. I just instinctively said, have any of you ever been at a place in your life where you said, there's got to be more than this? And if you have, raise your hand. And when I raised my hand, Shay, everyone raised their hand. And so I said, wait a second here. So I didn't have this story being strung out on drugs. And the reality of it is this, right, Shay? If Dwight Pledger, as powerful as his story is, if he were to say, how many of you have been strung out on drugs? You know, there'll be very few people that would know what that feels like. If Pauline Ahi would have said, how many of you, know what it's like to have no arms and no legs, it would have been very few people, not anyone in that room, that would be able to raise their hand, okay? No pun intended, right? With Pauline having no arms and no legs. But what I realized is that even with my story, not being a big story, not being a heavy story of some sort, but just the simplicity of pursuing a goal, pursuing a dream that was not really your goal and your dream. It was given to you by somebody else. And we think about how many people right now are going through lives that they are going after goals and dreams that were given to them by their parents, that were given to them by someone else. And those dreams were not reflective of what they wanted for themselves. And just the simplicity of getting to a place in your life where you're saying there's got to be more than this, getting to a place in your life where you're frustrated, I realized that was universal. Everyone has been at a place in their life before where they said there's got to be more than this. And that's when I realized that you don't have to have this really like heavy story for your story still be able to resonate and connect with people. And so I share that because that is one of the main challenges that so many people have, is that they are caught up with the comparison game. They are comparing their story to somebody else's magnificent story, and they have somehow convinced themselves that they don't have a story. And so that is one of the main reasons why I believe that a lot of people don't take the time to work on and develop their story. And if that's you as you're listening right now, I want to make you understand this, that no matter what you may think, and no matter who you may have compared yourself to, I want you to know that not only do you have a story, but that there are people who are out there, they're your assignment. I mean, that is perhaps the thing that I enjoy most about what I do. You know, working with entrepreneurs, working with speakers, working with coaches, and helping them to be able to craft and put together a powerful signature story that really allows them to attract opportunities, attract their ideal customer and client, increase their conversion. The thing that I love most is that when I see the transformation that takes place from them getting more confidence and more clarity, because they now realize that, wow, not only do I know I have a story, but I know how to be able to share it in a powerful way that's going to create opportunities for me. And not only that, but the fact that I know that when they have more confidence, more clarity, they're going to get out there and talk to more people. They're going to do more Facebook Lives. They're going to do more webinars. They're going to do more podcast interviews like what we're doing right now. They are going to speak to more of their clients. They're going to offer more of their products and their services. And I know that every time I empower an entrepreneur, every time I empower a speaker, every time I empower a coach, or even people in transition, because that's a major part of my audience, people who are already having success in one area in their life. Maybe they've been working a 9-to-5, and now they've been trying to figure out how to pivot because they want to become coaches, they want to become speakers, whatever it might be. But just being able to empower those people with a story, seeing the confidence and the clarity that they get, and knowing that they're going to get out there and take bolder action, and ultimately they're going to get in front of more people who are their assignment. And so for me, it is such a joy to know that I'm empowering other leaders, that I'm empowering other people who are going to go on to make an impact. So it's like this compounding effect, right? I empower one person to be able to share and craft and tell their story. They get more confidence, they get more clarity, and they share and impact their story with more people. And then they in turn begin to impact more people. And so there's power in that, right? And so part of how do we unleash that power, we got to get people to realize that their story matters, and so that they don't get caught up in this comparison game. And that is so huge, Shay Brown, that we get people to not compare, but to just accept the fact that they do in fact have a story. Now, once we know that they have a story, of course, naturally, there's a lot of things that are going to be involved with being able to craft and put that story together. And I don't want anyone listening in right now thinking that our message is that you just need to make sure you have a story. It's not that you just need to have a story, but you also need to get the coaching so that you can craft and share that story in a very powerful, compelling way, right? There's plenty of people who are telling stories, but the way that they tell stories, as you alluded to before, Shay, is not properly structured. It is not built around some kind of a universal theme. They haven't developed any level of conflict. If you're a note taker, I do want you to write this down. It's one of the things I'll be talking about, during my training, for the comeback summit that's coming up with Shay Brown, and Shay will be talking to you guys about that. But one of the things that is critical when you are really trying to put together, your story, is that there's got to be some type of a conflict. So if you're a note taker, I want you to write this down. No conflict, no story, right? So I can't even begin to tell you how many people who I watch, even people who are influencers, who start telling stories and they're really missing the mark. And I say, wow, if this person was able to build influence and they're not really great storytellers, imagine what would happen if they actually took the time to learn how to be able to share and craft a story. If they were not, going on and on and on, if they knew how to be precise, if they knew how to have a universal theme so people could connect with it, if they knew how to make sure that there was a conflict in the story, because most people have experienced some level of a challenge and a conflict, and that's what's going to resonate with people. And also, if they knew how to be able to drive their point home by leveraging a story, right? I watch a lot of people with great content, but then they don't use any kind of a story to be able to drive the content home. Like, we use an example. Earlier, I was just making a simple point. Don't compare your story to other people. Now, I could just say, don't compare your story to other people. And yeah, that sort of helps you with the point. But by me talking and sharing a little bit about the story, about me being at the training, about Dwight Pledger, Pauline Ahi, how I was comparing, how I went in the bathroom, I didn't want to do it. Then when I shared my story, it is going to resonate with you on a different level. And it's going to be so much easier for you to retain what I shared with you, as opposed to me just giving you that piece of content. And that's why when we share these stories, it's so very critical. I can't emphasize it enough. So I personally believe that regardless of what you're doing, right? Whether if you look at yourself right now and you say, Andy, I'm having really good success, becoming a better storyteller is going to amplify your success. If you say, Andy, I'm feeling stuck right now, and I feel like I'm not getting traction, becoming a better storyteller is going to help you to get unstuck and help you to gain more traction, because you're going to attract more people to what you're doing. If you're saying, Andy, I got products and services, I think they're awesome, but for some reason people aren't buying. Well, getting better at sharing the stories around your products and services is going to help you to increase conversion. So regardless of where you fall on the spectrum, or if you're even a person who says, Andy, I'm working a 9 to 5, I have a career, but I want to make a transition, but I've been spinning my wheels. Well, guess what? You developing your story helps you to have more confidence and more clarity. And why do we not take action? We don't take action because we lack clarity. We don't take action because we lack confidence. And so I can't even begin to tell you how many people have come through like my Master Storyteller Academy who were in transition. They were working a corporate job, working a 9 to 5. They had aspirations of becoming a coach, becoming a speaker, becoming an entrepreneur. And now they say, Andy, it's just crazy. I have so much more confidence and clarity through my story. Now, the things that I know that I've been wanting to do, that I've been reluctant to do, and what I believe that for most of us, we do know what we need to do. We just don't do it. And we don't do it because we lack confidence, and sometimes because we lack clarity, okay? So what the amazing thing is, when you help someone construct a story and they get confidence and clarity, it's not just around the story. Mm-hmm. It's the fact that it empowers them to now do more Facebook Lives, talk more about their products and services, right? To seek opportunities to get on more podcasts, right? To promote their direct sales company when before they would be around people and wouldn't say anything, right?
Right.
So it's all these other things that they are now empowered to go out there and do, Shay, which is why it's really hard for us oftentimes to really get people to comprehend fully what we do at my Master Storyteller Academy, Shay, because there are so many intangibles that happen beyond them crafting their story. That we are going to do hands down. They're going to leave there with their signature story. But it's all of the other intangibles, right? The increase in confidence, the fact that we help them to raise their beliefs, right? The fact that we get them to see so much more clarity, the fact that they begin to have a greater vision for what's possible for themselves. And then also we put them into a mode where now they are going to be taking massive action. And so it's like they got the story is the tool, but then it's all of these other things that they're empowered to do that starts really compounding things for them that creates massive success and results in their life, right? And I know that that's what it's all about for you, Shay. I mean, I know, when we talk about champion nation, when you even think of the word champion, right? Mm-hmm. There's something unique about champions. Champions have a growth mindset, right? Carol Dweck talks about the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. Like I've watched you, Shay, just with this, just relentless commitment to your own personal growth, but then seeking out other influencers and bringing those influencers to your community, right? Which I can't think of more communities like, Champion Nation, or even like the Happy Entrepreneur community, where they're going to get access to the people that they get access to. I mean, let's face it, Shay. Oftentimes you could pick up the phone, call up someone like Joseph McClellan, call up, somebody like Lisa Sasevich, call up somebody like, Mark Victor Hansen. I mean, just to name some of the people that you've had on the show, that you can just pick up the phone and call those individuals. That for most of those individuals, it would cost someone like, all right, a VIP day with me is $15,000, and I can assure you a VIP day with some of the other folks that you've had on the show is probably going to be in excess of $15,000. There's been people on your show, I'm pretty sure, a VIP just day with them is probably like $50,000, $25,000. And because of the people who are part of this community, and that's why I think it's so important, especially during this time, that champions surround themselves with other champions, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what this Champion Nation is about. It's part of you becoming a champion is through association, right? I do this whole teaching around identity, and one of the keys to changing your identity is to be changing your associations, right? One of the fastest ways to become a champion is to put yourself in the presence of other champions, because by doing so, you will begin to think like a champion. You'll begin to act like a champion. You'll begin to observe what champions do. And just from proximity and from being in the presence of other champions, you will begin to get a champion mindset and begin to feel, think, and act like a champion, which ultimately starts to create results that champions create, you know. So it's really, I can't put a value, really, I really can't, Shay Brown, as to what you do here in this community for the people who take the time to take advantage of this resource. Now, the reality of it is, we know this, Shay Brown, is that you make it available, but not everybody's going to take advantage of it. And that's the sad truth that is about that, right? Is the fact that many folks do not take advantage of it. I'm just thinking about, your just the magnitude of the people that you've put together for your upcoming, virtual summit, right?
The comeback champion nation.
With you saying that, I know you weren't trying to go there. But I believe that people benefit by taking action. And I know I appreciate you listening. You just let me ride out. But for the people who are listening right now, can you put in context what I'm referring to? Because I know we have dialogue. I know I'm contributing. I know I'm going to be talking about storytelling. I'm going to be talking about the 5 stories that every entrepreneur needs to be able to generate additional 6 figures in their business. I'll be going into, in addition to that, the different storytelling styles. But do you mind just sort of sharing, Shay, like, who are some of the other people you have in the lineup? And then how do the folks who are listening in right now to this conversation, how do they even make sure that they're going to be able to join us? And they better be joining my session, but I want to make sure that they know about some of the other sessions that are taking place as well, my brother.
Sure, there's a couple of things, Andy. There's a number of speakers that are participating. I'll mention some of the folks, but here, let me first give you the website for those folks that are out there, because Andy will be there. And you can go over to www.comebackchampionsummit.com. Again, www.comebackchampionsummit.com. And the number one mission, the overall goal is not just to empower, it's not just to inspire you, but it's to make sure you walk away with the resources. And storytelling is one of the anchor resources that you need. Sure, there'll be some, names there, if I can say it like that, because of the content, because of their history, because of their success, and because of their desire to help folks just like you. And you might not know who they are. And so we'll mention someone like you mentioned, a Joseph McClennan III, who is someone who's been not only a business partner of Tony Robbins for 32 years, not only is the methodology that Tony teaches, but more importantly, he's been transforming lives for over the last 32 years. The guy has a doctorate in neuropsychology, and he talks about how to be a mega millionaire and megapreneur. How to become a mega millionaire, megapreneur. So how you can have multiple things going on. And then you have none other than someone like a Dr. Sonia Striblin, who we talk about how to build that 7-figure empire business you want. And she's got to be one of the baddest sisters I know on the planet. And then there's Rhonda Britton. And it's important that I mention someone like Rhonda Britton and the balance that we look to have at this, Andy, is because one of our core philosophies that has driven us over the years is that the results that show up in your life are just as important as the results that show up in your bank account. Y'all might want to write that one down. The results that show up in your life are just as important as the results that show up in your bank account. So for those that are over at www.comebackchampionsummit.com, there is no Cash App payment needed. There's no Zelle payment needed. There's no credit card to swipe. It's just you with a desire to improve the quality of your life and to serve other folks. I think, Andy, that's probably one of the most important parts. Yeah, okay. There's someone like Simon T. Bailey who will be there. I get it. The old brilliant one. And some of you may be hearing that name for the very first time, but it's time for you to change where you are to where you want to go to. For those folks that are listening, do me a favor. We want to pay this message forward to other folks. And I'm going to ask Andy in a moment. You can't get into it, but at least say, hey, there are 5 different type of stories that you need. Now you'll come to the Comeback Champion Summit, and he'll share what they are and do a little deeper dive. But I want him at least to touch on it. So if you're sitting there, you're telling yourself, you know what? He says I need a story, but I mean, I know my story, so I'm good. Or, well, I'm in business, but what story do I tell from a business perspective? The reason this is so important for you right now is that it will change your life. And I wanted Andy to be here at this moment in time because I know for some of you, your story is going to help you be a better communicator in your relationship, at maybe a church or whatever organization you belong to. It's going to allow you to be able to relate more with your maybe children or those that you mentor. So these storytelling techniques are very, very key just in the relationships that we have. And then others of you, I know it's all about the money. I get it. But they're going to help you communicate better with your clients, with your prospects, with your marketing team. And it is all the world of difference. It's the one common denominator. It's the only time I don't argue. I'm normally saying selling. You need sales. You need sales. You need to serve and sell. But we can't serve and we can't sell without the story. It just doesn't exist. It doesn't happen. And so as you're out there right now, do me a favor, hit the watch party button. What's up, Eddie Johnson? Hit the share button if you would. What's up, Mavis? What's up, Coach Claire? Hit the button right now and pay this message forward. Hit the share button. When you hit the share button, just put, it's time to serve. Andy, thanks for that plug, man. I appreciate it. It's www.comebackchampionsummit.com. If you would, Andy, maybe give them maybe one or two. If you can give all five in a short period of time, do that. But I want you to weave in, if you can, the importance of what a comeback champion is, and maybe one of the key characteristics of a comeback champion. You talked about how they surround themselves with other folks, but what are the characteristics they have to have inside of them in order for them not only to come back, but to do better? And the reason I say that for those folks that are out there, and this is very important, I got a call. I was on a podcast recently, and they said, Shay, tell us a comeback story. Tell us why you said comeback. And people have those. And I said, no. It's not about, like Andy talked about, a major comeback. I come back every single morning when I wake up. And I've got to come back from the mindset I had yesterday. I've got to come back from the email that just took time away from what I've got to do. I've got to come back from a new product change. There's always a comeback moment throughout the day. But here's what I do know, that champions, they have some key characteristics, some key traits that they're able to do, and that's the common denominator. So Andy has a tall order. Number one, he's going to give you these 5 components. But number 2, he's going to also talk about one of the key characteristics of a comeback champion. Andy, over to you, my man.
Yes, man. So fantastic. So I'm going to share these. Of course, I'll be going into more depth for those of you that are joining the summit. Recently, I'm a part of the National Speakers Association. And for those of you who aren't aware of NSA is a phenomenal organization for people who are professional speakers. And there is a criteria to be part of the National Speaker Association where you have to make a certain amount of money through speaking to be a part of it. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I had an opportunity to do a breakout session for our last annual conference, our Influence Conference. And part of that conference is, people who have been professional speakers, some of which have been professional speakers for decades. And I broke down these 5 stories, and even people who have been professional speakers for decades were like, wow, we've heard that stories are important, but we weren't fully aware of these types of stories. And just to give you some backdrop a little bit, the way that I even formulate these stories is that, as I share with you, I do VIP days where I work with people to help them to be able to craft a specific story. When they do a VIP day with me right now, currently a VIP day is $15,000. And we normally will work together from about 10 o'clock to 5 o'clock for a day, right? And we're normally working on one story. What I noticed was that as I reflect back on the folks that I did VIP days with, that the stories that they were typically willing to make that level of investment at fell into certain categories. And then I even had a couple of instances where someone paid for a VIP day, maybe a year later, 2 years later, but they came back again for another story. And so what was interesting was I thought to myself, well, there must clearly be a nice ROI for the mere fact that they're willing to invest that money for one story, and then the fact that some of them were willing to come back. And so what I did was I went back through my clients, went back through the stories that I helped them with, and I realized that the stories pretty much fell into 5 categories. Now I'll go into real detail for those of you that are going to be joining us for the summit. But I want you, for those of you who are a note taker, you can write the word solve going down vertically on a piece of paper. I'm going to share them with you real quickly. And right after doing that, I want to share a really cool thing with you. So you don't want to go anywhere, because there's something I'm going to want you to do right afterwards. I got a really cool free gift for you as well that you're going to absolutely love. So whatever you do, just stick with me right now, just real quickly as I unpackage this for you. So solve, and the reason why I use solve is because I believe that these stories solve many of the challenges that many entrepreneurs have. So the S is what we refer to as a signature story. I have an entire 3-day training called my Master Storyteller Academy that is all put together just to help people to be able to put together their signature story. In my personal belief, of the 5 stories that I'm going to share with you, the signature story is the most important one that you want to start off with developing. So I would say before you develop any of the other stories, you start off with a signature story. Why? Your signature story is it is like your magnet. It is the thing that's going to attract opportunities, attract customers and clients. Your signature story is like the main story that you share. And the reason why you share the story is so that you can start building connection and rapport with your audience, with your customers and clients. We've heard it 1,000 times before. People love to do business with people that they know, like, and trust. So the question is how they get to know you, how they get to like you, how they get to trust you. They get to know, like, and trust you through your story. Bottom line, okay? So the signature story is like, for a musician, it is like their hit record. For you, it becomes like your hit record. It is the track or the story that you lay down over and over again, meaning you're invited on a podcast. They say, hey, tell the audience a little bit about yourself. You share the story. You're on a television interview. They say, hey, tell the audience a little bit about yourself. You share the story. You are launching your own show. You're sending out emails to your list, and new people are coming on your list. You share part of this story. This is the story that when people say your name, they should be able to say, oh, are you talking about such and such? And they should be able to tell a part of your story, okay? It becomes an extension of your brand. It's how people get to know you. It's how they get to like you, okay? Now that you have a signature story, it's good. It helps you start gaining traction. But I don't know about you. I believe all of us at one point or another, we want to monetize, right? So if you want to monetize your message, somebody do me a favor right now, in the chat, put show me the money, show me the money, show me the money. Because it's one thing to have a message, but then we want to be able to monetize that message. So typically for monetization, you need to be making offers. So there needs to be something that you're offering. The presumption is that you have a product, you have a service. If you don't have a product or a service, I'm going to suggest that you get out there and you create a product or a service, right? So the offer story is simply a story that you share that helps you to get more people to say yes to your products or your services. It's just a story that gets them to see the value, overcome the objections, or to create a sense of urgency. That's what the offer story is. The next story is what we refer to as a landing story. All of us, if we want to position ourselves as thought leaders, if we want to position ourselves as experts, we need to have content, all right? But we can't rely on the content solely. There used to be a time where they said content is king. We know that's no longer the truth because now anybody can go on Google. They can find Andy Henriquez content. They can find Shay Brown content, right? There's nothing new under the sun. So what is it that makes your content unique? It's not the content alone. It's the fact that you take your content and you put it within a story, and that story is what really helps that content to be unique. So landing stories are nothing more than stories to help your content to land better on your audience. The other kind of story that you need is what we refer to as a value proposition story. So many of us are really passionate about what we do, and we have a tendency to go right into what we do, right into our products and our services, into our talk, right? Without first making sure that our audience, our prospect, has bought into what we do. In other words, I want you to imagine for a moment that you are a financial planner. You're about to have a conversation with somebody about how they can invest their money, about different insurance policies and so forth. But you just made the presumption that they understand the value of having a financial planner. So a value proposition story is a story that you share early on in the presentation to first get them to buy into the importance of having a financial planner, right? This is critical because all too often we get into our presentation, into our talk, without first getting people to buy in. So for me, I talk about the importance of storytelling. So oftentimes when I'm going to start a presentation, I share a story to get people to see the value and the importance of storytelling. All right. So that's what a value proposition story is. It's just a story to get people to buy into your big idea. And the final kind of story that we all need is what we refer to as an expert story, an expert story. We know that at the end of the day, people pay top dollars for experts, not generalists, all right? And it's one thing for you to tell people that you're an expert, right? You could try to read off your bio, talk about all your accolades, all that is good and dandy. But at the end of the day, real influence doesn't come from you telling someone you're an expert. Real influence is when someone observes you, AKA hears your story, and then comes to the conclusion themselves that you are the expert. So I'm telling you, it's way more influential for someone to come to the conclusion themselves that you're the expert, as opposed to you trying to convince them that you're the expert. So an expert story is a story that you share that the person comes to the conclusion themselves that you're the expert. Now, these stories are so critical, and I'm going to be going into them in more detail at the summit. But one of the things that's really critical for you, before you can really get a grips and get your hand around these stories, I personally believe it's really important that you even understand in the first place, naturally, what type of storyteller are you, okay? So all of us are telling stories. Some of us much better than others, all right? Some of us much more effective than others. Some of us with much greater influence than others, but we're all telling stories. And so naturally, you tell stories a certain kind of way, all right? There are essentially 5 different storytelling styles. Typically, you have 2 of the styles that really apply to you. One of them is a little more dominant. But one of the first keys for you to improve your storytelling skills is to first know what kind of storyteller style that you have naturally. And for those of you that would love to know what your natural storytelling style is, and then also to be able to get access to a really cool bonus, I want to go ahead and tell you what I want you to do right now. So I'm going to give you, number 1, access to a quick 1-minute quiz. I promise you it'll take you no more than a minute. And it is a quiz to help you to know what your storytelling style is. But the really cool thing is right after you take the quiz, you're going to unlock a free training that I put together. And in that training, I'm going to help you to identify what your signature story is. Remember I told you out of those 5 stories, the most important story is your signature story? Well, you might be saying, well, Andy, it's important, but how do I know what my signature story is? Well, I'm going to tell you exactly how you can unlock a free training. And all you got to do is take this free quiz. After you complete the free quiz, you unlock the free training, okay? So here's what I want you to do. Do this for me really quickly. Pull out your cell phone right now, right? Or if you're watching on your device, open up your text message real quick. And then here's what you're going to do. You're going to text the word story to the telephone number 954-278-3701. So once again, you're going to text the word story. It's amazing. Story is such a simple word, and it's amazing that people still type something else. So STORY, right? Story, that's all you're texting. The word story to the telephone number 954-278-3701. So I see Shay is doing something right now to sort of demonstrate that for you guys.
And give us a number again, story. Andy. Can you give us the number one more time for those folks that were just getting there, opening it up? What's the number?
Absolutely. So the telephone number is 954-278.
278.
3701.
Okay, 954-278-3701. We text the word story.
And you're going to text the word story. So once you do that, you're going to just text the word story.
Okay. And then from there, we just follow the instructions.
Right after you text the word story, you're just going to have one more step. It's going to ask you to go ahead and put in your email address.
Okay.
And the reason why it's asking you to do that is because we are going to do 2 things. We're going to text you the link so that you can take the quiz. And we're going to email you the link so that you can go ahead and take the quiz.
Oh, that's good.
The quiz will take you about a minute. But right after you take the quiz, I want you to make sure that you take advantage of the free training. You're going to love the training, and the training is short. It's less than 15 minutes, okay? You want to make sure that not only you take the quiz, but after you take the quiz, that you take advantage of the free training. That's my gift to you. Now, here's the thing. For those of you that are connected with me on social media, on IG, my IG handle is at Show Up For Your Life. On everything else, I am at Andy Henriquez. After you take the quiz, if you wouldn't mind doing me a favor, if you're connected with me on social media, send me a message. Say, hey, Andy, I took the quiz. This is what I end up finding out what my storytelling style was. Oh my gosh, I can tell you right now, when I took the quiz, I am what you call an evangelist, a heart-centered storyteller. I'm an evangelist, heart-centered storyteller. I'm curious to what you are. As a matter of fact, for those of you that end up taking the quiz, you can put it right here in the comments. But do make sure you take advantage of the training. I love the fact that you take the quiz. That's the first step. You're going to learn what your storytelling style is. You're going to learn the pros and the cons of that style. Remember, you may be more than one style, but there's probably one that's dominant, okay? And then the other part is that you want to take advantage of the training. You have to take advantage of the training, because all kind of light bulbs are going to go off after you take advantage of that training. So I always feel bad when someone tells me, oh, I did the quiz, but oh my gosh, I forgot to do the training, because they missed out on tremendous value by actually doing the training. So you want to take advantage of the training. So one last time, you're going to text the word story to the telephone number 954-278-3701, 954-278-3701. After you text the word story, you should receive another prompt. Put in your email address. You're going to get the link to take the quiz in your phone as well as via email, and make sure you take advantage of that free training. And of course, you had better be signed up and registered for the upcoming summit. That I'm completely looking forward to all of you joining us there, because I'm going to be just really breaking down stories at a completely different level. And specifically for those of you that are like, Andy, I want to use my story as a tool, man. I want to be a little more competitive in this marketplace. I want to know how to be able to get people's attention, keep it. I'm making offers. I want more people to sign up for my products and my services. I want to be able to be more engaging when I'm doing my Facebook Lives, my webinars, my podcast interviews. I'm just overall just looking to level up. So if that's you want to make sure you're there. Now, Shay did ask me another question. Mm-hmm. And one of the questions he asked was really, what are one of the attributes of being really a champion? So one of the things I told you is that champions surround themselves with other champions, right? So part of becoming a champion is going to be through association, which is really, really important, okay? The other thing that I think is really critical is also begins with the letter A, is that champions are going to take action, but action that is going to be consistent with the next level that they want to be at. So here's what I mean by that. Anybody who is preparing to be in the Olympics and to compete at that level, and who wants to receive the gold medal, is going to first say to themselves, what is the end goal? And they say the end goal is that I want to become a gold medalist. Now they're going to say to themselves, what is required to become a gold medalist? So if they are in a particular race, they're going to say typically the person who places gold needs to run the race in this amount of time. If they are going to be in the pool and it's a swim meet, they're going to say the person who completes the certain amount of laps is going to do it in this amount of time, right? If they are in weightlifting, they're going to say that the champion needed to lift this amount of weight, right? So typically what they're going to do is they're not going to be depending upon what they've done up to this point, right? A champion is not basing what they're going to do based off of where they currently are, right? That's the thing I want you to understand. That is the fastest way for you to remain mediocre and continue to get the same results. A champion says that I know where I'm trying to get to, okay? And I am going to take on the identity prior to me producing the results, all right? So if the person says that they're going to get the gold medal in the 400-meter race, from that moment, they're saying, I want to take on the identity of a gold medalist, a U.S. Olympic gold medalist, listen carefully, in a 400-meter race. So what they're going to say is, for the person who is going to place the gold medal, number one, how many times does that person practice per day? Okay? So they want to know, they're going to start taking on the identity before they produce the result. So champions take on the identity first, and then they start taking out the action consistent with that identity that they want to embody prior to them producing the result, which helps them to become a champion. So that person's going to say, well, if I want to become world class, number one, the person who's world class, how many times do they practice a day? The person that is world class, how much sleep do they get? The person that is world class, who helps them to train and work out? The person that is world class, what do they put in their body? What do they not put in their body? They're going to figure out all the things that they should do and all the things that they should avoid. And before they ever get that gold medal, before they ever place and become the champion, they already begin to take on the identity of being a champion, and they also start taking action that is congruent with the person that they want to become. The issue is most of us take action consistent with who we are and also what has happened in the past. And so it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because if you're going off of what happened in the past, and the past is dictating how you feel about yourself, it is dictating the way that you think about yourself, and it's also dictating your actions. What's going to happen is I only feel as if I'm capable of this because that is what I produced in the past. I only think that I can produce this because that is what I've done in the past. And so I'm only going to take action congruent with this because that is what I've done in the past. And so when it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy and you continue to produce the same results that you've produced in the past. Whereas a champion says, I'm not focusing on what I've done in the past. I'm focusing on who I am becoming. And I am saying I am a champion. So I'm going to take on the identity right now of a champion. So what does a champion do? Even though when they look in the mirror, they may not look like the champion, even though they may look at their bank account and they don't have the champion resources at the moment, they say, that's okay. I'm going to take on the identity first and the results will catch up. So perhaps the best way for me to explain this is I have a past coaching client. Her name is Maud. Maud is basically an RN. She's a registered nurse, and she, most of her life, did not really work out. She was experiencing some health issues, and after experiencing the health issues, she went to go see her doctor, and the doctor said, in addition to us changing your diet, doing some other shifts, you do need to work out. She said, all right, fine. She went to the gym. When she got to the gym, she looked around at all the equipment in the gym. She didn't know what in the world to do with the majority of the equipment in the gym because she was not a person that normally worked out. Well, what happened is when she started working out in the gym, she clearly didn't know what she was doing. Someone in the gym who was a trainer walked up and said, hey, would you like some help? I can train you and help you out so that you can get your body in the right shape. So she started training with this trainer who really started helping her to push herself and learn some things. Well, what happened is the trainer said this. She said, I don't know if you understand this, but I'm looking at your body structure and everything. I believe that you can become a professional bodybuilder. That is what the trainer said to her. And what happened is she actually believed the personal trainer. And now, after she believed the personal trainer, She said to the personal trainer, okay, I believe this. You said it. That wasn't my goal. But now that I know that there's a possibility I can become a professional bodybuilder, what does the professional bodybuilder do? Right? So she took on the identity first before she had the results. So her body is still the regular body that she had, but she said, okay, from this point on, because this lady I believe in told me that I am a world-class bodybuilder. So at that moment, she took on the identity. And so she started saying, what does a world-class bodybuilder do? So the lady said, well, world-class bodybuilder works out this many times. This is the way that they work out. This is what they put in their body. This is what they don't put in their body. This is the amount of sleep that they get. This is the magazines that they subscribe to. These are the type of workouts that they commit to. These are the type of gear that they purchase. And so before she ever produced the results in her body, she took on the identity of a world-class bodybuilder. And Shay Brown, as God is my witness, I watched this lady, right, completely transform her body. Over 8 months, this lady completely transformed her body. She ended up entering an amateur bodybuilding competition. Mm-hmm. She actually won the competition, and now she is pro-level bodybuilder. Pro-level bodybuilder. She has a movement she's creating now called Madi Fit. Her name is Maud, but Shay, I gotta find a link so I could show you, because I want you. First of all, you're gonna see her physique and you're gonna be blown away. Mm-hmm. But the issue is this: you needed to have seen before. I saw the transformation happen over 8 months, and somebody else is gonna say, well, once I have a body like you, then I'll start doing it. And they don't realize she took on the identity of a world-class bodybuilder way before she produced any of those results. And so champions take on the identity of a champion. So and that's why the association, the first part I told you is, how does a champion act? How does a champion think? What do champions do? What do they read? What do they not do? Right? You've got to take on the identity first of the champion, then do those things, and then the results will begin to produce themselves.
Man, I love it, Andy. I love your heart to give. I love your heart to serve. For everyone out there, you've been listening to the one and only Andy Henriquez, who showed up today, one, tell you about the components of storytelling, which is very, very important, but also for many of you, introduce you to learn your signature storytelling style. And that's very, very important. And Andy, I love the way you break down the story. I want to see the photo. You got to send something. You got to post that in the group. You're going to have to find that link and get that over to me.
Yes.
Here's what I like to do. For those folks that are out there that are already registering for www.comebackchampionsummit.com, Andy be going into much more detail, and you have a chance to get the training. Make sure before you go to training, make sure you take the signature selling style questionnaire. Less than a couple of minutes, you at least know what you may not have known before you started. So then when you show up and you're there, you can say, this is my style. This is the type of stories I need. How do I weave that in? Andy, I want to say thank you so much for giving us your time. I know one thing you can do is you can always make more money, but you can't make more time. And I want to turn over you to kind of close us out. One of the things I love about you is you give. Connect with Andy on social media. For those folks that downloaded the survey, go over there and let Andy know, hey, I downloaded it. And if you got questions, unlock the gift. Make sure you watch the videos. It's not often that you get an opportunity to learn something about yourself through self-reflection that allows you to get better as a human being before you get better as an entrepreneur. And isn't that what we all want at the end of the day first? To better ourselves so we can better other folks. Andy, over to you, man. Thanks a lot for being here, man. We appreciate it. Can't wait to connect with you over at comebackchampionsummit.com. Give it to you to have your closing thoughts to give us the
fantastic. So, we're the theme is really about, being a champion. And so once again, I want to close out with what I believe is really the AAA factor to becoming a champion. The first A is there's got to be awareness. You got to be aware of the fact that there is a champion that is inside of you. Now, whether you have seen glimpses of that champion, Whether you're saying to yourself, Andy, I know I'm a champion, man. I produce champion level results. Or even if you're that person, you're saying, Andy, man, if you knew my life, I'm telling you, there's no way you could say I'm a champion. I'm telling you right now that there is a champion inside of you. There has to be some level of awareness. You have to accept that as being true, not for just other people, but you have to accept that as being true for you. So there's got to be some level of awareness that champion has to be awakened. That champion has to be developed. So the first thing is awareness. The second part that I told you, the next A, is this: association. I need you to be very mindful of who are you surrounding yourself with? Who are you spending the majority of your day on the phone with? Who are you having conversations with? Champions surround themselves with other champions. It's part of the reason why you're part of this community of Champion Nation. It's part of the reason why you are connected with Shay Brown. But I'm telling you to be very vigilant and be mindful of who do you have yourself around? Who are you associated with? Because we've heard it over and over again. Oftentimes we can tell so much about you by just assessing who your 5 closest friends are and who you are spending the most amount of time with. And the third part is this: champions take action, champion level action. You know, it's not good enough to just take small action. You got to take massive action. Part of massive action is making sure that you're part of the summit. The other part of action is finding out what are the tools, what are the things you need to take advantage of and invest in yourself. Part of taking action is paying it forward, putting yourself out there, right? Champions take massive action. I believe if you understand those triple A factors, awareness, right, association, and taking action, you'll begin to start shifting your identity and you'll be able to embrace that champion that's already within you. And so I'm personally looking forward to those of you that are going to be joining us for the upcoming summit. As Shay said earlier, make sure, if you haven't already done so, take advantage of my storyteller style quiz. Remember, you text the word story to 954-278-3701. But don't just take advantage of the quiz. Make sure that you also take advantage of the bonus training. Champion Nation, happy entrepreneur community, I am humbled and honored to spend this time with you. I'm looking forward to all of you that are going to be joining us for the summit. If you haven't already registered, make sure that you do. God bless you, everybody, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Thanks a lot. With that being said, my name is Shay Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur. Make it a great day, everyone, and I promise you from the bottom of my heart, we'll make some good things happen. We connect again next time. Remember, time is long, so very, very long. Life, on the other hand, is very, very short. So you've got to live in the moment, and you got to make it count. God bless, and we'll see you later. Thanks a lot, Andy, man. You rock. Thank all of y'all.
All right,
bye-bye.
Man. Appreciate it.
We're out of here. Promise I made to my mom. I only did this message for one person, and that's my mom. This is for you, Mom. Love you. My name is Shay Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur. Make it a great day, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, Shay Brown.
Mic check, mic check.
All I do is win, no matter what. Got money on my mind, I can never get enough. And every time I step up in the building, everybody hands go up.
Yes. Yeah.
And they stay there, and they stay there, and they stay there. Cause all I do is win.
Yeah.
Thank you. God bless.